You left us down in the fair. But yeah, no, there's a lot going on. It was good. We had a little reprieve. I'm sure you had some good times down there too.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
It's always a
yeah,
good
yeah,
time. I
yeah,
wouldn't do it unless it was fun.
yeah.
And
Meanwhile the fishing goes on.
wow.
I think we're out of the. You and I are in the clear. We got to. It may not be a lot of albies, but we called albies. And I think we got enough to where we satisfied that part of the equation.
Well,
but
it's
you know
not
what?
over yet,
It's
is
not
it?
over. No.
Right.
And I was just going to point out, I think it was in the 84, 80, it might have been 85 when those big albies came in the channel.
Yeah.
And I was just, Phil and I were just talking, and my galley girl, but she was also, Fran Kennedy also had a captain's license too. And I put her on the first string with Russ Iser. They're fishing between here and Catalina, and she hangs the fish on 20-pound, folks. To this day, I'm pretty sure it's still a world record on 20-pound line. It was a 75-pound albacore.
Damn.
And she got it with the switch on. I kept telling Franny, you got to learn how to fly line. But what do I know? She got a world, I think it's still standing. So, you never know what we're going to see here. And that was late in the year. Oftentimes we're going to look at it and say, wow, late in the year it's going to be out. No. You don't know till that fat lady sings.
Yeah, right.
So
that was like November, wasn't it?
It was. It was very
bucking up
late in the season.
Yeah.
Late in the season. And I can remember that too because we sent the Cherokee Geisha. We had it up here, and we sent it back down to San Diego.
It came up here?
Came up here for dry
Did it
docking.
run out of here?
They did some, no.
Just
but
maintenance.
we shut it up here for maintenance real quick at Dinko's yard, and we
Yeah.
took it back down. My grandma went for a ride on the way down with my brother and got a 50-something pound albie, and that was late in the fall.
Wow.
So, you never know what's going to happen, folks. Our fishing's not over, and I guarantee you, if those long fins pop up, all heck is going to break loose again.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Because people will go crazy for them,
Travis Bright says, good evening, guys. Travis fished with us, Danny, on the Horizon. Did great,
Oh,
man.
awesome.
Travis,
Awesome.
it was great to see you on that trip. Thanks for being on all our trips and everything you do for us, man. I don't have the words. And same thing goes for Jeff Yeomans from the 540 Slingers Club. Jeff is an outstanding human being, a great guy, and a military veteran. So,
God bless. Let me tell you.
Absolutely.
Our family, my dad, my uncles, they all served. They went to Europe, and my dad did 2 tours in Korea. We're big. Thumbs up to all you military guys. God bless you.
We ran the show that you did with about Manzanar, and it's getting tons of positive comments, Danny.
Unbelievable.
What a great guest.
Oh, yeah.
What a great guy.
Yeah.
What a great person.
And what they went through and everything, it was amazing. But I mean, it also shows a different human side to that. How the guards, they knew, and they let them go out and they go fish.
Yeah, yeah.
But but that had to do a lot with the heritage. Had my grandfather been in that camp, I know he would have been one of them. But they were at my mom and them were at Hart Mountain, Wyoming.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, my grandfather, who was going up in the Sierras in the the 20s and 30s, he would have definitely been one of the guys going up in that area. I mean, they were the ones that taught me to stalk the streams up at Bishop Creek, and when I was 4 years old. So, I can guarantee you they would have been sneaking out.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, don't forget to hit that like button, everybody. Let Danny know you're loving the show. We thank you very much for sharing these videos. That means a lot. Subscribe to the Friedman Adventures channel, and make sure you comment. Ask Danny a question. You got him here. I'm not going to let him escape. He can't leave. I mean, that big guy Maui was just here.
Yeah.
I'll have him stand here at the... Did you see the video of him carrying his fish?
Yes.
That 180 pounds, that was him. Oh, my God.
Oh, my, yeah. That fish didn't stand a chance.
He's a big man, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's
my
a big
God.
teddy bear.
Yeah. Oh,
He
yeah.
seems like
They're like that. It's awesome.
Lovely guy.
That's
Pianist
absolutely awesome.
Harn Jack from Montana says, hello, Phil and Danny. Wild Willie says, good evening, Phil and Danny. Bunch of people jumping on the show, Danny.
Oh, that's awesome. We'll open it up to any kind of questioning tonight. Montana, I could even talk fly if I have to. But it's funny. We lining up somebody for the future. It's going to be a special guest.
Yeah, you want to say who it is?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Go ahead.
And I have to find out what the dates are, but he's going to surprise grandkids, but Gary Loomis will be coming down. He'll be down here, and I told him, I says, well, you and I are going to come in the studio here, and we're going to do a show too. And we go back a long ways. We got some You guys are going to be dying with the stories. Cause
Gary Loomis.
Gary
For people
Loomis.
who don't know, who is he?
G. Loomis. He was one of the forerunners in graphite. You know, he originally worked, for Lamaglass and split off on his own. And later on, as G. Loomis started to develop, I went to go be one of his, sales rep. I was the first rep, for Southern California. I had Southern California, Nevada, Arizona, and Hawaii, and helped, really push the line, and we grew the line unbelievable. So, but he's a clown, and you guys are going to make sure you have a spare set of pants because you're going to be wetting your pants. He is so funny, but that's just the way he is. But he and I have stories together that I'm going to save him for that day. You guys are going to die. It's unbelievable.
He's a joker, huh?
Oh, we were talking about an hour before I got down here, and I called him. I said, "You got to come on." And he's coming. He's coming down to bring his a surprise trip, so we can't say anything for his little young great grandkids and stuff. But we talked about some of the stories and all the shows that we did around the country and all over. And you guys are going to be dying laughing. Some of the goofy things that we've done and stuff you would have thought were kids and not adults. But, that's that fishing in us too.
Yeah.
And we did mess with each other's fishing lines, rods, and you name it. I mean, we pulled as many pranks as you could possibly think of, fishing together over the years. So anyway.
It's a side of Loomis that people don't have because they think
probably
of him
not. And
as
he is
this
a huge
extraordinary rod builder, and
yep,
this
clown,
makes him human.
Oh yeah. Well, there's no doubt about that. He can be a tremendous bozo.
Who's the biggest jokester, you or him?
No, it's a toss-up. It was a perfect match for us. I mean, and that was one of the things when we were really on top of the fishing rod world. We were all having fun doing it, and with all the reps around the country and all over, and at that time too, we were fishing everything. I was still bass fishing, I still had salmon fishing, you name it. I fly fish, for God's sakes, and I fly fish even before I, with my cousin in Salt Lake City, he taught me at family reunions.
Yeah.
But having the fine and technical fly rods that we had. In the fly market, it was a Sage versus G. Loomis. We weren't as pretty a rod, didn't have all the bells and whistles, the pretty finishes and stuff. It was a more technical rod. We could punch our lines better because it was a graphite scrim rod, so it was lighter, it was higher performance for sure.
Yeah.
But it took a special guy to use that. What we found with the fly guys is they're more into the aesthetics. They want the beautiful finish on it and everything else, and I got funny stories about fly. Maybe I'll interject some of these now, but
you're
what
more
it was
welcome to.
We would go to shows. I'm a fisherman, folks, and you guys know that. And to me, it's about figuring it out, And I brought Gary down to expose him to our world down here. So we did a show with Dan Hernandez on my old boat on the Mustang. And it so happens we had a wide open yellowfin bite, okay? And we were able to go from, we pulled out lift poles because I know they have never done anything like that. So these guys got the lift pole fish. We went from lift poling to I even nailed one of these yellowfin on a fly rod. To my knowledge, is the first time that was ever done on a sport boat. Going from lift poling to fly rodding. You got two extremes there.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But that's what it was about, smoke testing the rods. We were implementing for the first time straight graphite saltwater rods. That had never been done. And it had to be given to guys that had the mentality that you have to pull the proper angles.
Right.
You can't high stick a straight graphite, you'll blow it up. If you fish it correctly, you put a fish on much quicker.
Yeah.
Because it recovers so much quicker. It dampens so much faster because it's lighter. Sensitivity isn't quite as critical, for the saltwater situation. it's the recovery rate is so much faster. So when you have it with a good short stroke, you put the fish on quicker too. So there was a lot to learn, but it was nice because he was all ears and open to doing things that we wanted to do, and I wanted to get away from I wanted a high performance rod, you know. 90 something% of the manufacturers are going to go with composite, interject fiberglass, so you have a little bit of elongation, and it's not quite, it's not as fragile. I never broke a straight graphite, but I'm pulling at the right angles.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna preface it by that too. I mean, if you know how to fish, and if you're pulling it from 90 degrees down, where your power curve is, you'll never break a rod either. It's the one guys that are taking a straight graphite, high sticking it. You have an opportunity of breaking that rod. But why would you bring it up here when you drop off maybe 50 to 80% of the pressure by having it above 90 degrees?
Yeah.
So I think you've heard me in the past where keeping that rod from 90 degrees down, you're going to get a much quicker, you're going to get more lift, number one. It's a faster recovery, but you're putting a lot more pressure on them.
Oh, God,
And,
yes.
and Phil fortunately filmed that show we did last year on the Freedom.
Yeah, that was fun.
And, with a 30-pound rod.
Yeah, but you were
these
never high sticking
65
in any of that video.
to 100-pound fish. Yeah, that's the only way the only shot you have with 30 pound to get them.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, you're going to have attrition. You're going to lose fish. They're going to chew through it with 30 pound. But, unfortunately, they wouldn't eat any heavier than 40. And we had all the best sticks you could think of. These were all captains on the boat. And if anybody was going to give it on 40, these guys would. But they would not eat anything more than 30. So, you have to use and use what you've got that they're biting to get the fish on.
Even that Pat Whitaker was there. He's that crazy guy,
oh,
man.
Pat, yeah, I just got off the phone with him today. He told me, yeah.
He was trying to reach
He's
you,
looking
yeah.
for a graphite. Well, he's looking for a group. I told him I got one of those blanks that I used on our Freedom trips.
I was going to say, you got me to blame
Yeah.
on that because I
Yeah.
gave him your phone number.
Yeah, it's perfect. No, it's always good talking to guys.
Speaking of saltwater fly fishing and characters, how about that Nick Curcione? I don't know if anybody out there knew Nick. If you did, let us know.
Yeah.
He was I went to Loyola Marymount, and I walked into my sociology class, and Nick is my professor. And I didn't know anything about him. And then all of a
Nick
sudden
was
he's
a
talking
character.
about fishing.
Oh,
and
my God. Yeah, but get big into the fly.
Funny, man.
Big into the fly.
Huge.
Yeah, where, like us, the crossover guys, I was a bass guy, I was, a saltwater guy. I did fly fish, and I learned from one of the best guys, my cousin. He's one of the top guys in the country. And, but the difference is, I went out there to figure it out, to really figure it out. And I will do whatever I have to do to catch a fish with a fly rod. That means fishing a nymph, whether, you're fishing a nymph, a dry, whatever it is figuring it out. Too often I saw in the fly industry, these guys had their blinders on. They only wanted them on a dry fly.
Yeah.
Well, that's like going out there, folks, and you're going to throw straight surface iron. Well, guess what? There's days when they're eating the yo-yo. And so you have to, when in Rome, you got to go with whatever works, folks. And I fished with some of the best guys, and I fished against the Marriott's guys one time, and they were supposedly the epitome of the fly guys. And they only wanted to catch fish on a dry. We were up under the chutes. But they were eating nymphs, and I was using, not only that, I was using bead heads. I went down and dropped down to trout outfits, fishing light line and 4-pound.
Yeah.
And I ended up with the only steelhead. But it's about figuring it out, folks. It's about figuring it out. That's true for any type of fishing. So it's keeping your eyes open, watching, and utilizing what's working, and trying different things. But,
All right.
look, we better dig into the phone.
Yeah,
I'm noticing-
Isaac says, good
Sorry to
evening,
pile on.
gentlemen. Missed you, Danny and Phil. Cue Ball is so happy to see you here. Hal says, good evening, Phil and Danny. Ernie Montano is a great guy. He says, hi, Phil, Danny. Thanks for entertaining us with such great content and history. Guessing you remember Butch Green, who used to manufacture very nice wooden tackle boxes. I was his plywood supplier. Do you remember Butch?
I remember Butch well.
Yeah?
I mean, he originally was one of the guys that contacted Gary before I ended up eventually doing the repping for him.
Oh, really?
Butch was one of the guys that came down. But yeah.
Butch Green and Ernie says he used to fish on the Royal Polaris
Oh, yeah.
with him. I think, as I remember, and Ernie can tell me, he fished the Royal Players religiously.
Yeah.
I think he
Yeah.
was on the RP all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
is Butch Green around anymore,
I
or do you
don't
know?
know. Last I heard, he was up at the one of the museums up the coast, at a Hearst Museum or something like that. But in Malibu,
Yeah.
is there one up there? Something like that.
Malibu would be the Getty
Getty. It
Museum.
was the
The
Getty.
Getty
Excuse me. It
Museum.
was the Getty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last I heard, he was doing something up there. But yeah.
Really?
And I don't know that he's been fishing the last year. I haven't heard a thing about him.
I haven't either.
Yeah. I haven't heard a thing
We're getting
about him.
too old,
And he
man.
used to literally like sit on the butt end of the rod a lot of times.
Yeah.
Something that he would do.
He was an outstanding fisherman,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Rick Slater,
Good one,
Danny,
Fisher.
what rod and reel did you use when you caught your largest largemouth? What would you use now? That's a good question.
You know,
Excellent question,
at the
Rick.
time, I think I think it was the 18 and 3/4 before I got the 1904. But Shimano came out with a rod they called a fighting stick, where the rod, the taper of the blank, was your hand was on the graphite foregrip, so you had sensitivity all the way through. Had a built-in reel seat, and I was fishing. Ironically, I was using a Shimano rod. I think I was fishing a PMF 1000 Daiwa, which was unbelievable for fly lining.
Yeah.
And we had to have tricked out reels because we were fishing little crawdads that weighed nothing, or fly. You had to be able to fly line them, and we're fishing 10-pound with them. Later on, I was fishing Loomis's, and my 19-pounder. I stayed with 10-pound. Folks, it's kind of the way I'm going to equate this to you for these trophy largemouth was very similar in some respects to the bluefin. You know how the bluefin touch you when it comes to like line size and everything else. There's a reason why some of these fish get to that size. Their habits. Your bait has to swim naturally. I think if you inhibit even a crawdad swimming and doing his escape where he's thumping, if he's held back by heavier line that's got more line drag, it's not going to be as natural.
Yeah.
And I credit a lot of that to fishing the lighter lines. I fished a lot of 10-pound, but the 10-pound XT literally broke at 17, so that put me in the 20-pound class.
Yeah.
But I knew that particular line at the time had the least amount of stretch. I was also camouflaging the line. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but Doug Hannon, I was blessed enough to know Doug Hannon, met him at shows, and I would talk to him about different things. But one of them that made a big difference for me, freshwater fishing. This is before fluorocarbon, before they started camouflaging some of the lines. Like I think it was Triple Fish had different colored lines than they camo did. But if you took a straight piece of monofilament, back at that time I was using Trilene XT, because it had the least amount of stretch of any line out there. So when you set the hook, you nailed them.
Yeah.
You could feel the hook go tick and the barb going into them. And I would sharpen every one of my hooks. I would go through a box of hooks a night, sharpening 100 hooks at a time, making sure there's razor sharp, But, the line had a lot to do with it. That XT had very little stretch, so when you set the hook, you felt the tick, you could feel the barb going in. And, it made a big difference. And I think the lighter lines, I think if you're fishing heavier lines, it's just like fishing offshore a lot of times. You're going to get a lot more bites with the lighter lines, and a lot of times you'll get your bigger fish with that too.
All right, good stuff. Hey, don't forget you can meet Danny. I'm not sure that he's clear, but we'll be here Saturday with an open house from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. We might even be here at 4, and we'll probably stay till 10. But let's say 5 to 8. You can come by, see the studio, get some photos with Danny and the rest of the Friedman Adventures folks. Maybe grab a hot dog if Greg Bates is up to cooking some hot dogs up. We'll have a raffle, so you can join in on our raffle and support our efforts to send more goods and clothing and so much more down to Mexico this Saturday, 5 to 8 p.m. right here at the 22nd Street Landing Studio. All you got to do is get to 22nd Street. If you can't find our studio, which is easy to find, but if you can't, just walk in the office and they will kindly guide you to us here. Hit that like button, everybody. We deeply appreciate it. Let's go back to some more questions here, and we go to Montana now. PNS Hornjack says, Danny, do you think like 50 feet of mono top shot is still a good idea nowadays. Braid mono or braid to fluoro when fly lining for bluefin tuna or when kelp patty hopping? Or do you go straight braid to fluoro nowadays?
You know,
What do you think?
that is an excellent question.
It's a great question.
And it has to do with our trip last year when we were out at Cortez. Not Cortez, we were out at Tanner, and we're anchored up, okay? So now I'm on the boat with 30 ex-captains. A little bit of pressure, right? And so I'm used to having a 9-foot rod with my 20-pound or 25 and a light, a small, accurate reel and fly line. And that particular day, because I had fished long range with that outfit, I had very short, I had straight fluorocarbon to Spectra. Well, dummy me, I'm out casting these guys. My Dean's taking off, but I'm not getting bit. These guys were straight mono getting bit. So immediately I'm analyzing, okay, I'll make another cast. Outside again, Dean's going down and away. It's not getting bit. So I go, oh, great.
Something's up, right?
It's too short a top shot.
Yeah.
And when you long range fish, you get a little spoiled, when you're down below where there's less pressure, right? So I go up to 25, and I had a little longer length of mono on that to my fluorocarbon, but it wasn't long enough. So I fired that out. Same deal, no bite, So I go, okay, what the heck? My 30-pound had quite a bit of mono on it, fluorocarbon, but it had a good length of mono, and then backed by Spectra. And fortunately, it was a 500 accurate, with a 2-speed. Okay, so I fire it out. First cast, I get hammered immediately. Now, most of the guys fishing the 2025 that were on the Freedom with us, all the captains, they're up and down with their fish, and I'm going, mine is walking, and I go, oh, this is like a different unit, Well, they were by chance or by just by design, I hooked and the 6 fish I hooked. I never hooked one that was a small one. They were all
I know you're getting your butt kicked.
the wrong size fish, folks. Yeah, I was getting my butt kicked, and so anyway.
But I say that because but you made short order of every single one of those fish.
Yeah, but and it goes to show, obviously if I had got them on 40, any of us could got them on 40, we would have done more of a number on them.
Yeah.
But you got 30 captains. You got excellent fishermen that you're competing with, folks. So you got to do, when in Rome, you got to do as the Romans, right? So I stayed with the 30. I tried 40, did not get bit. So I'm back to 30, I get bit again. On that first one, I ended up straightening out a hook. And it was because initially the bluefin that I saw were in the 20-pound class, the first ones that were gaffed and put on the deck. So I fished a light wired gamakatsu with the ring, which the whole hook, the number 2 hook, weighed 350 milligrams. So it gets bit unbelievable. It's a great albacore hook, but not for 60 to 100-pound tuna. Okay, so I straightened that hook out. So I escalated up to a Gorilla Light, an owner. Still none of us have seen any of these bigger fish yet. We're still hanging, putting the smaller fish on the boat. I hang another one, and it walks off again. I go, oh, great. Get it up and down. I straighten out the Gorilla Light. So I finally said, all right, heck with it. I went to a 4X 1/0 Mustad that was ringed, about as heavy as you get. And from that point on, we did some business. Put some fish on.
Did, man.
Yeah.
You were just,
Yeah.
When you caught fire, man, it was just a 5 alarm.
But
just kept going.
It's this progression. I had to keep learning as I went,
You have to have keen observational skills.
you gotta
right?
you gotta figure that out, folks.
Yep.
And you're amongst a bunch of captains, right?
Well, with the exception of Pat Whitaker. Just kidding, Pat.
Talked to Pat today. Love the guy. I mean, what a great.
He's a character.
There's something about it. Pat Conklin put this thing together.
Yeah.
And what a kick. I think we had more laughs than anything. We
that-
got one going this year.
I don't know because it's almost September
Oh
now.
wait, I'm gonna have to call Conk.
Yeah.
We have to call Conk, see what's going on,
Yeah,
man.
because
We need a reunion.
I'll film that
We
again.
need the second annual. That was a kick in the butt. It really was. I saw guys that I hadn't seen, captains in years. But
Yeah.
it was fun. It was fun. But once again, it's figuring it out, folks.
It
you
is.
know, it's figuring it out. It took a lot, to get what we got, but they were all the nicer grade, all the nicer grade fish. So but it took some, tough. What would you call it? Knocks on the head.
Yeah.
To me,
Yep. To figure it out.
what are you doing to figure it out? And that's what it took. So you got to constantly keep, upgrading what's going on in the bite as it's going to. So.
All right,
There we go,
everybody, hit that like button, please. We appreciate it when you do that. And also, don't forget, we'll be here Saturday night, 5 to 8 p.m., right here at 22nd Street Landing. I'm thinking I'll throw the camera on, and when people come in to meet you, Danny, we'll just let
cool.
it go, man.
Absolutely.
Be on the Friedman Adventures
There we go.
YouTube channel. There has been a little bit of news that I've got, and sometimes I get tied up and I'm not able to continue. So if anybody out there has any great news, let us know. But I talked to the Pegasus. He was bit on bluefin and bit up good out there. This was about 4 hours ago. And then the Sea Watch, I know, had limits of Dorado fishing out at Seaforth Sport Fishing. He's a day boat, leaves in the morning, coming back this evening. And the Polaris Supreme, last time I talked to them, they had a $1.44 on the bluefin tuna. Tremendous score. And that score here just the other day, Danny, we talked about it. The Pride gets in here to 22nd Street Landing, and Tony works up in the offices. They couldn't have been more thrilled. And why not? I'm ballparking their score, Danny. 105 yellows, 43 yellowfin tuna, 52 bluefin tuna, some Dorado to go along with it. I mean, does it get any better?
It does not get any better than that, folks. Go fishing. Go while you can, folks.
Absolutely.
Kid you not. I mean, that is phenomenal. And the weather's laying down now after this little blow, or hurricane or whatever they called it. But yeah. But you know what that does too? It brings up a lot of fish too. So you never know what's going to happen. And going into the fall, we still don't know what's going to happen. I've seen, like I said, I saw those world record albacore come up late in the year. So you just don't know what's going on. But there's fish out there. Get on a boat and go fish. You can't lose. But definitely the Cortez and Tanner Bank stuff, it's pretty darn steady.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's good fishing. And there's more exotics on the way. So, yeah, get on the boat.
Ernie Montano says, you're absolutely right. Butch Green works at the J. Paul Getty Museum.
Oh, he's still up there.
What is he, an artist or something? I'm only kidding. Paints fine works of art. And I can remember now my brain, and I don't know if Ernie knows, but we just mentioned Nick Curcione a moment ago. He used to talk about Butch Green a lot. So there was something going on with that. Any friend of, Nick was,
Oh, yeah.
he was my college professor, so I had that kind of respect for him, but we got to be really good friends.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw him like 6 months ago in San Diego.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, I went down and had lunch with him and his lovely wife, and it was just like just like we picked up right where we left
Oh,
off.
that's awesome.
I love Nick.
Yeah.
He's a great
Well,
guy.
you know,
Nick.
last time I saw Nick, he was doing all the fly gigs.
Yeah, right.
He was big into the fly, and that's with Loomis. I was doing that side too. So, yeah, it was about the last time I saw him. But yeah, the fly guys are a whole different crowd.
Ducks go. That's Brandon. Brandon, I'm very sorry, but Mike Morrison and Tony, we're not allowed to take any questions anymore from Brandon. I apologize. Just kidding. Hey, Danny, I got a question. Reading these reports of El Nino, or not El Nino, I guess he's talking about El Nino, by the scientific community, now that's happening, could you see roosterfish working up the line this summer? I wonder what the furthest north a rooster's
I have
I've never heard of that.
And I'm never
up
going to
here.
say no to anything.
Right, because we caught wahoo up here.
We got 5 wahoo in a skiff out here, right on that 100-fathom curve,
Yeah.
right outside that rig one day.
Right.
Went out the next week, and my brother got one. But, who would have thought that? And
Yeah.
they weren't little. Those are all
No, regulation.
nice regulation wahoo.
Yeah.
Nice hoos. So you never know. But roosters I haven't seen. But, I'm like I said, who knows?
Yeah,
We'll see.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Cue Ball, who is one heck of an exceptional fisherman, he likes to run 100 to 150 foot top shots. You like that, Danny?
Yeah, well, like I said, I lengthened out that mono on that freedom trip, and well, I had fortunately had a fair amount of mono on that, but that made all the difference in the world. Made all the difference in the world.
Isaac says, follow up.
Yeah.
Why do you think the mono was getting a bit better than the fluorocarbon?
Well, I got to tell you, no, I had floral on the end, but the length of mono, I think
too
it's
short.
just well, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it had to do with more they could see the spectra, and that short top shot I had of fluorocarbon, the spectra, on even the other one with a shorter length of mono, fluoro, and then spectra. You know, I think when you're talking about bluefin, you're still talking about the best eyes in the business, folks.
Yeah.
They've been always touchy about that. I mean, you're going to have everything dialed in, smaller hooks, lighter line, and they've always been that way. Of course, you get into the bigger fish at night, fishing 400-gram jigs is a little bit different.
Yeah,
But,
then you go
on a
200.
daytime deal like that, it's always been the guy that could fly line the baits and get a bait to swim. The guys are going to get bit.
Yeah. Chuck Zimmer wants to know if you're on our October Amigo trip, a 2-day trip. Chuck is going to be there. Of course you are, Danny, right?
I'll have to
He
check
is
the
now,
schedule, Chuck. Yeah.
Isaac, any thoughts
For
on the
sure.
lack of yellowfin? They think they're getting wrapped up before they make it up here. Is it saner? Because it looked like we were going to get hit with a whole wall of YFT,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it never really manifested. It's kind of been hit and miss lately. Do you
I don't
think
know
that
that
it's
they
saner
could.
pressure?
I don't know that they could ever wrap them all.
I don't either. That's how I feel
so
about it.
We'll see. Just give them time.
That's what I'm thinking, right? It's a
mean,
timing issue.
And folks, things cycle. We looked at like El Nino in '83, and we had almost all straight yellowfin and big eyes and stuff like that. You had certain fish, and then some years it's all albies, and then you get a mix of cooler water fish where it's bluefin and albies. I don't make those determinations. I take whatever Mother Nature and God gives us. That's what we'll take out there.
Yeah, right.
And we just adapt to it. But I can't to make those predictions on that stuff. We just never know, and that's why I have such a tough time with. A lot of times you'll see biologists formulate things and say, "Well, this is why they do that." Well, you know what?
Maybe you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the right answer. Is we just don't.
Right. Do you remember a guy? You probably won't remember his name. Maybe you will. Noli Yan Jr. He was a guy that sat with you in the galley
Yes.
on the Apollo.
Yes.
And he came out and said, "I feel like I'm in heaven. I'm talking to this guy, Danny Kadota." And he goes, being with you two guys, he's always so respectful. He's such
awesome.
a lovely
Oh,
guy.
he's fishing I'm watching him fishing on the beach and stuff. He does a lot of surfing.
Right,
and stuff.
right.
That's the epitome of a fisherman. Just having that rod in your hand.
Yes.
When you get out there on the boat, doesn't matter where you go, you're going to be fishing, and you could see that right off the bat.
Well,
you can tell guys.
So I show Eddie Leland, who of course is in this battle with cancer.
Yes.
And he's really,
Yeah.
fighting hard, never complains,
Yeah.
great inspiration to me. I show him some of those photos and he goes, "Now you ruined it." He goes, "I got to go." So I call Noli and I say, "Hey, Eddie would like," boom, what can I do to make this happen? How can I help? And so he just sent a report to me and he goes, "Hey man, too much wind. It's not good yet. I'll let you know when the green light's on. Get Eddie, come down." And I mean, that's the kind of guy.
Yeah,
that you gotta.
he's awesome.
you gotta love
Yeah,
him.
no, he was great.
Yeah.
That's the best part about fishing. It's the camaraderie.
Yeah.
The people that you meet, the people, the new people, your old friends. I mean, that's fishing. I mean, to me, that's a huge part of it.
I find that
Yeah.
most fishermen are down to earth, blue collar, hardworking, good, decent people. You find that?
Yeah, and we love to fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love to fish. I love helping people out. You know what I mean? I've seen guys back in the old days. They had the old guys would hide this and this, and they didn't want to show you this and that.
Yeah,
But
right.
You know what? After running a sport boat, it's the more hookups you have on the boat, the more you have hanging, the more you're going to continue to hang. You're going to keep the school around the boat. So to have a few select people get it and not be able to spread the wealth or let the guys know what you're doing is not going to help anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and if you're particularly even like us on the Freedom, you had all skippers. So you got guys that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But when you're around other people, that if you're doing something, and if it's a back hook, it's a butt hook, whatever. Those little things make all the difference in the world some
Yes,
days.
yes.
Because it'll change sometimes from day to day. You don't know. So, keeping abreast of that and paying attention, that's going to make all the difference in your scores.
Danny, this is kind of a little different thing, but did you ever run into this? Because I saw this a lot when I was working in San Diego. And I don't know if I imagine it still goes on, but some charter boat guys, like 4 or 5 guys on a charter boat, would be on fish. And they're getting the fish every day, and they are not turning their counts in. And the open party guys are not getting out because there's no fish being caught, supposedly. And they're out every day. And I'd show up on my charter, and I'd go like, and he goes, hey, this is freaking wide open. We're going to get them, and you got to keep your mouth shut. I was doing 9, 7, 6, 10. And if it was a one-guy thing like that, I did. I respected it. If somebody else told me about it, then all bets were off. But, man, that used to infuriate the open party guys. How did you know what I'm talking about?
The problem with that is it's not good for the industry overall.
Right.
I mean,
absolutely it's not.
And the thing is, you could have your turn in the barrel too, where you're off it, and if nobody's communicating
Right.
with you, if you're
Right.
not in the right code group or whatever it might be, and it's just not worth it. I
No.
mean, it's better for the whole fleet to work together. Everybody stay on the fish better, and the cooperation makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
I mean, if
it
you're
does.
looking at that, as for industry wide,
100%. I agree.
it's better for everybody to catch fish.
I can see you got sad listening to that kind of.
Oh,
because,
yeah. Well, and at the same time, I was blessed because I had a lot of sharp groups on my boat, and we were just blessed by that,
Yeah.
So what we were able to do is we were able to give them, the best crew members, and give them the best servicing, and and we always prided ourselves on that. Our kids were top notch,
540 Slingers Club President Jeff Yeoman says, hey, I'm going on a 2-day trip on the Freedom Friday night. Hopefully we'll get a chance to check out the yellowtail on the kelps. They might do that. There's a little breeze coming this weekend, Danny, that looks to me like it might last till about Tuesday. 18, 20, like that, maybe out there. And
Yeah.
hopefully it'll
Yeah.
get downgraded. We just fished out there on the horizon and that kind of snotty weather. And we creamed
It's
them.
not bad. Yeah.
They'll bite in that.
You're gonna
just
get 'em.
Matter of getting there. And your course heading from here is way better than the one from San Diego, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you go head into it down
Yeah,
there.
you
Yeah,
do.
You go straight into it.
Back to Montana we go, and our dear friend PNS Harn Jack. To follow up on my previous question, do you recommend 100 feet of mono or shorter? And,
particularly
and just
with-
before you answer that, cue ball,
Yeah.
the guy that puts 150 feet on, he says, man, you got to hide the rope. And he laughs. Yeah, he's right.
You mean a Spectra?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I found that out. On a trip last year on the Freedom, and until I got to my 30-pound is where I had the longer lengths of mono on it, and that was the key. That was the key deal. Bluefin or bluefin, they still have the best eyes in the business, and I think they do see the Spectra, and I can guarantee you they did it. Because I was making longer casts with my 9-footer, and I was throwing 15, 20 feet outside most of those guys with my 9-foot rod, but I wasn't getting bit. And that with the short, short fluorocarbon, usually if you're down below, if you're down in San Diego on Yellows or something, if you're out that side of everybody else, outside that radius, their casting radius, you're bit immediately.
Yeah.
But when you're fishing amongst more pressured areas with a lot more lines in the water, you got to be cognizant of that.
Yes.
And having that longer top shot of mono does make a difference, so that helps. So, once again, I learned a lesson on that, but that's what happens. You have to constantly, reevaluate yourself and your own tackle oftentimes too.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh my God, I should get bit on this lighter line with a fluorocarbon. I'm making a long cast with a 9-foot rod. Guess what? They could see that line, So, and it may not be that with all species, but bluefin, they've always been known to have some of the best eyes in the business.
Yes, that is for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick Slater, I know you've seen it, Danny. I've seen it
Yeah.
a million times. but he wants to know a little bit more about it. Would they tie on another rig if you were being spooled and chase it with a dinghy? Heard stories. Well, if you had, some of those guys had skiffs, like the long range guys, but in most cases, you'll tie on another rod and then just fight the
You
fish,
know,
right?
Phil and I were just talking this before the show. If it weren't for my sea daddy, Russ Iser, who brought Spectra into this world, we promoted it down at an ASA show down in Dallas, with Spider Wire the first year. None of this would have ever come about.
That's
Okay?
right.
And so it changed. It really did change the game, you know. And so figuring out, since that time, particularly with the reels we're using now, they haven't had to put guys in skiff and chase them down, or
But that
or
happened.
throw a rod and reel over with
That
a clip on
happened,
it.
right?
Oh,
A lot.
they used to do that in the past.
Yeah.
But it was a pain, and oftentimes those guys in the skiffs, they'd go almost out of sight, So is that the best way to go? No, I didn't. It didn't prove anything as far as upping your percentage. I don't think. So having that less stretch with the Spectra, and having the volume of line on those reels, that's what changed the game, folks.
Yeah,
That's what really
absolutely.
changed the game. And we could all thank Russ Iser. And don't forget it. I won't let anybody forget it. That's for sure.
I know, man.
Yeah.
You hold him very close to your heart.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He took folks, I have to tell you this. He took a lot of heat from a lot of guys. And a lot of guys, even in our sport fleet, that I was a part of.
Will go unnamed.
I will go unnamed, but there are a lot of guys.
Unless you want to name it.
But I will tell you this. Those guys, I haven't forgot it, and they know that because I'll give it back to them privately, but I'll give it back to them.
Yeah.
Because you do have to keep your eyes open. Things that you guys are seeing on the boat and having that knowledge, being on the boat and seeing it firsthand, seeing things work, put that away in your memory. There's a reason for it. There's not as much luck as people think there is in fishing. It's doing your due diligence, doing your homework. I see some questions here as far as, technical questions on what we should be implementing on lures, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. Doing your homework or being there physically to see it yourself, see what's working. A lot of times it's some of the subtle changes in heavy, heavy duty split rings and things like that. There's different things that make things work better, and that dialing in is what separates California fishermen, Southern California fishermen, from anybody around the world, And I attribute that to we come out of a society here of aerospace, Hollywood, computer industries, JPL. I mean, our guys are much more technical here, and that's why all those big innovations in sport fishing have come out of Southern Cal. That's why I push the graphite. It's state of the art as far as I'm concerned. Is it more important for me to have something that won't break or have a rod that recoils much quicker, will cast further and put a fish on quicker? Yeah. Can you break it? Yeah, you can break it if you high stick it. But why would you high stick it when you're getting 1/10 the power here at a high stick than you are angled down at 30 degrees? It's learning how to fish the proper angles, guys. That's where you're going to get your pressure. That's where you can put the fish on quicker. It's going to recoil quicker, and you're less likely to break. But you're putting virtually, I'm going to tell you, 10 times more pressure on it when you have it down at that angle, as opposed to, you see these guys high sticking. When you're at a high stick, you got about 1/10 of the power that you do if you have it pointed down at the fish, down at 30 degrees. Why in the world would you have it up there? You got less control of the fish. When you got the rock of the boat and everything else, you're going to get this spongy deal. It's going to be hard to pick it up. If you keep that rod down low, as the boat goes up, use the boat to kill the fish. Boat goes up, you hold it. As the swell goes down, you wind down. And if you can keep that handle turning, the fish will never get a chance to get their head down. You guys that are doing this, and the fish is doing this. Well, when the head is pointed down and takes a kick on his tail, he's taking drag on you, folks. But if you're keeping that wind on, you keep the steady pressure on them, when you got 10 times more pressure at this angle at 30 degrees, all you got to do is swell goes up, you wind down, you're just keeping up with it. It never gets a chance to get his head down. So what's he doing? He's going to kick himself right to the boat, folks. Less wear on the line, teeth if it's in the tooth area or whatever. You got to put the screws to him. You got to have that attitude. I'm going to get him or I'm going to break him off. Especially if you're fishing lighter line. So there's a lot of things you have to be consigned to do and commit to if you do hook a bigger fish on lighter line. So, and those are some of them. Use all the proper angles. Use the timing of the boat, the swell, everything. You have to put everything in your favor.
All right, good stuff.
Yeah.
Brandon is back. He says, Phil, Danny, with this warming trend, and he's making reference to the El Nino, would it be silly to get some of my trolling lures rigged up properly like they do at Alejos for wahoo, even marlin? What do you think? Is he jumping the gun?
You never know. You never know. I would have never put money on a bet in 100 years that we're going to catch wahoo locally here in LA. And yet 10 miles from here we put on 5, and they weren't little guys either. Just on that 100 fathom curve outside the island.
I remember that.
Oil islands, So we ran the fathom curve. And we probably could have sunk the boat with them if we stayed out there, But you just don't know. You just don't know. You just have to be prepared for it,
All right, go for it, Brandon. Get ready. Back to Montana. PNS Harnjack trolling with Halcos on the American Angler a few weeks ago. Danny, you were talking about that. Was there a specific color that seemed to work better than others? Halco 220, 180 gram, correct? Question mark?
I think so, and I don't know. So a lot of times color's not always as important as the lure itself. I could tell you, in all those years we ran, we trolled, and there was bluefin around. The only one we got was going full bore out to Cortez, and full bore on the Mustang. I got to tell you, it's maybe 12 knots. If I really pushed it up. And so, catching bluefin on a troll was not in the equation. So it so happened that we got that 174 on that Halco, on my trip. And it was just amazing. And we had stops on some 40s and 50-pound fish. So, I mean, to get bluefin on trolling lures, period, that's amazing, compared to what we used to do in the past. So you got another tool in your tackle box to utilize.
All right, good stuff.
Yeah.
Brandon is back. Jeff Yeomans, he's talking to Jeff Yeomans saying the Pride just whacked him. Yes, we've talked about that several times, Brandon, on the show.
Absolutely.
You'll do well with Trevor or Tino on those yellows. Tino's retired. Try and take some pictures for Facebook. Can't wait for your trip, man. It's going to be fun. Yes. Brandon's on top of everything here today. Excellent, Brandon. Thank you. William Padilla.
Oh, God.
Does anyone know if a Shimano Speedmaster 8 fits on a Phoenix Abyss? Where is Sam De La Torre when you need him? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't fish those
Wrong
anymore.
show,
but
William.
yeah. And I mean,
Sorry, man.
Is this like one of the new Speedmasters?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I fished the original Speedmasters. They had the black ones way back, So I can't tell you that. Yeah, you got to talk to Sammy.
Where's that Sam? Maybe
Yeah,
he's listening.
yeah.
He can answer that for you, William. Hey, thanks for the question anyway, even though we can't figure it out. PNS Harnjack, back to Montana. Two-part lighthearted question. What is your favorite meal on a boat? What is the most exotic meal you've ever had prepared on a sport boat? Great question.
That is a hell of a question.
We were talking about that.
I got to tell you, that's a hell. I mean, the whole game in the galleys now on the boats has really been elevated. It's not a cook. These are all chefs, guys. The game has been elevated so much with some of the fine cooking that are coming out of these boats, even the smaller boats. It used to be on the long range boats. Of course, on a long range boat, I can't even eat all the meals. You're getting your breakfast. Or actually, you get a morning snack or breakfast and a mid-morning snack, and a lot of times, and some of those are brutal that I've had to refuse that are homemade Cinnabons and things like that.
Yeah.
I go, no, I'm still
Oh,
full.
really?
You know, then you go into a lunch, then you got an afternoon cocktail shop where there could be a big sushi spread or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But everything on all these boats, folks, they've elevated so much, and it's very competitive. And that's a big part of the boats now too. Is that servicing, and it's all phenomenal now, folks. I got to tell you, for the most part, and mostly, if you want to know for sure, get the word of mouth from passengers, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you, because that's a big part of it now, a big facet.
Yeah, I would get. What's my favorite? I probably, before I went carnivore, I probably honestly would be a boat burger. It's like it's hard to beat, right?
It's hard to beat. It's
You
hard
know?
to beat. And even nowadays, like Jeff and I, we'll split like the prime rib dinners. They're like this. They're like going to Lowry, and we'll take half portions. Because when you're getting, appetizers and this and that, you can't eat those whole things. They feed you till you're tired, not full.
And the most exotic meal, I've never had anything really exotic, I guess, and it's not exotic, but I just say, freshly sashimi'd, whatever, a variety
But
of different
I'll
stuff.
tell you what,
Maybe
that last
roe.
trip we had on there, Paul,
Yeah.
some of that stuff was,
Oh, God.
whew,
Oh, my
it
God,
was
that's true.
it was gourmet.
Yeah, that
it
kid was good.
He was unbelievable. He
Yeah,
was
he
awesome.
was.
Yeah. But you're going to get that elevation of service from one of the meals on a long range trip, or on several of them. So but the game has really stepped up.
You ever
and
eat
that's a big part of it.
barracuda roe?
I have. I'm not real big. To me, it's almost a little gritty.
Yeah.
But I tell you, so it's not a favorite. But yeah, I had a lot of people we'd save eggs for.
You ever eat fish eyeballs?
No, that one I have not.
In China, everybody's eating eyeballs.
Yeah.
I could.
It's like a gelatin type
Yeah,
deal.
I
I
don't
looked
know.
at it, I go, nah, no. It would end up doing one of those. Hoot, hoot.
Well,
Sorry.
that'd be a great TikTok video. Anybody got an eyeball out there? You can get down to the studio in the next.
Oh yeah.
10
Oh,
minutes?
that'd be a fun thing.
I was in a taco stand out in TJ,
Yeah.
on the street.
Yeah.
And the guy asked me, "Do you want? Yeah, hey, you should try this ojo de vaca cow eye taco." And I was like, I wanted to do it because I pretty much tell everybody there's nothing I won't try once. Blah blah blah. I didn't try it. I gotta try.
I'll
it.
never make that statement.
I-
Because you just, other. I have enough friends that'll fix me good if they.
Eating.
I'm going to leave that little disclaimer at the end.
Hey, I watched
Depends.
my son Philip out in Kunshan, China, vomiting after he ate like the biggest cicada, big bug, and he's out and this Chinese family is walking by, and in between vomits, he's still trying to be. So he's like, "Ni hao, ni hao." He's saying hello to them, and then back to the
A
gutter.
cicada. What? So is he a fly fisherman?
Yeah, really. My God, you should. Oh, these things were so
Oh,
big.
God.
He said he wouldn't do it unless I did it. So I took one and I put it in my mouth, but I put it over here on the side of my cheek.
You just
And
held
then
it
I
there?
started munching, and he's looking at me, and I go, not that bad. And then he looked at his brother, and when he did, I took it and I threw it. And then I go, "Done.
Perfect.
Your turn." And he goes, "Okay." And then that's, shortly thereafter.
Oh, my God.
It was
Perfect.
great.
Perfect.
Ernie Montano is back and says, "Danny, please give Russ Iser the credit he deserves for building the local man-made reefs."
You
And then
know-
Brandon says, "Oh, is that why they call it Iser's Reef?" So maybe a little history, Danny.
You know something? Russ was way ahead of his time with everything, folks. And I got to tell you, he was out there, and he was looking after all of us fishermen. They had a viaduct right here by 22nd Street. Going down as you went in toward the commercial fish markets. It was a huge concrete, viaduct, that overpass type deal. And when they tore it down, Russ went to the state and said, "You guys ought to take that concrete and make a reef outside." And they just looked at him and boo-hooed him.
Dumb idea.
So
Who's
dumb
going to
idea.
do that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So he funded it, put it on the barges, took it out there. And, Russ he was way ahead of his time.
Visionary.
Visionary, and he had so much foresight on things like this. And you look at that Iser's Reef now, Phil, it's its own ecosystem. Squid spawn on it. And fortunately, there's enough rebar and stuff like that where a lot of guys can't put gill nets on it because they'll lose it,
Yeah.
right? So how good is that? You're not going to be able to clean those things off. And it's, squid spawn on it now,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
its own ecosystem now. Fish spawn on it, you know, and we could thank Russ. But he was that same visionary that did Spectra when everybody thought he was nuts, and I was very blessed to have him, like a couple other guys like Taka, guys that we called Sea Daddies, highly respected these guys. But Russ, as far as that went with the innovation and stuff, he was really on top of it, and he always listened and formulated things himself. He didn't just say no, or whatever it might be. He listened, and that was one of the attributes that I saw. You guys will. I'm going to tell you again, but this tells you a lot about Russ Iser. He had his own boat. He had the Longfin, he had the Peace, he had the Indian, he had all these boats. But he would charter the Mustang, probably to help me out when we were first starting with the charters and stuff. And all his regular guys and friends would come out on the boat on the Mustang, And Russ would always bring out, and once again, when I was younger, when I first had the boat, I was doing a lot of freshwater bass fishing. I'm taking out these short bass rods with ambassadors and whatnot, fishing the calicos with them, having a blast. He brings out these long rods. I go, hey, what's big old long noodle rod? He brings us out making a nice long cast, and he's fishing them on oh God, what was it? A squidder, I think, a squidder 146 or something like that. So he's got a nice long cast with the 15. He hooks a nice bass, he's fishing it. He says, here, try this thing. So I hang a nice fish, not real big, maybe 4.5 pounds. And I start to bounce this thing and the line snaps. And I go, Russ, this line is crap. And he goes, what are you talking about? It breaks at 15 pounds. And I told Russ, I says, Russ, nobody's fishing IGFA. We're not looking for world records fishing calicos at Catalina, I said, I want a line, a 15-pound line or a 12-pound line that I could take down to San Diego, fish the Coronados, catch a bluefin with light line, and lay claim to that, And they don't know that it breaks at 18 pounds, Well, he sourced a new line company, which he is still utilizing today, which they still are utilizing today, and it's unbelievable. And it was one of the early copolymers. So here's a guy that has more knowledge than I'll ever have, but he's willing to listen to input and everything. He went out and sourced that line, and to this day, I still use Iser line.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. It doesn't break it.
Brandon's asking the question, but
Yeah.
you've already answered it now. You said, hey, is this the same guy that made Iser line? I mean, he's
Same
a
guy.
multi-talented
He
guy.
was one of the true innovators. And he was an older guy, but he was wise, and he watched and observed and would change. Where a lot of guys, even, the younger skippers that are set in their ways, they didn't have that ability. They were going to do the same thing every time. Russ watched, and he listened to the input. And because of that, I give him more respect than anybody out there in this industry. Especially hearing the heat he caught initially when we first came out with Spectre. Guys were saying, hey, your nets, it cuts through anchor lines, this, that. I'm not going to mention names, but but there were a lot of downers, people that doubted that when they first came out with Spectra.
Yeah.
And all those guys
Big
were
names in the industry,
Yeah, big
right?
names in this, and they were all wrong. So, hats off to my Sea Daddy, for being the innovator and for taking, and having the guts to do that. And he never pulled any punches politically either, Phil.
Oh, I know.
He'd go fishing game, go, you guys are stupid, blah, 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 and he was right. What can I tell you? We miss him. I guarantee you some of this nonsense that's going on politically now with some of the regulations and everything, they wouldn't be there if Russ Iser was around.
Right.
I guarantee you that.
Yep, I remember
Yeah.
Russ used to come on a radio show, I was telling you, with Bud Frillo and another guy that became a famous sportscaster, Steve Hartman. The three of us were doing a radio show, and Russ came on because I saw Russ as a guy that would come on the show and light a fire because he didn't hold back. So it wasn't some boring, it was always boom. And like you said, he didn't hold back on politics or anything.
No,
So it's
and he
a
spoke
great
the
segment.
truth.
Great
He spoke
segment.
exactly what he believed in.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, he was right in almost every single case.
Yep,
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, thank God Wild Willie is here to bring us back to more important things. We're going back to tuna eyeballs. He says, barbecued tuna eyeballs. You eat the meat on the back of the eyeball.
Wow.
We got to
Hey,
try that.
We'll
You know-
save some for you.
Dude, you know what? We should get like 12 eyeballs and have an eyeball eating contest.
Oh, my
and have
God.
A
Would that be
prize.
funny?
That'd be great.
That'd be funny.
What do you guys think about
and
that, huh?
Who can hold it down?
I mean, we had a jalapeno.
For so much time, we'll have to sit there and go, okay.
This is way better than a jalapeno.
Oh, yeah.
A tuna eyeball.
It's perfect.
We might have
It's with our
PETA.
industry.
PETA might show up with some signs and be upset about that, right? Plus, you can pick up an eye and
God.
give it to somebody and say, I kept an eye out for you. All right, Rick Slater says, have you ever been outfished by a newbie? Some of my best memories are seeing the delight in their eyes. Well, Danny, we all know the story about the guy, the rent rod who catches a 60-pound sea bass, right? So, you know, on that level, it happens.
That happens.
Yeah.
That happens. Yeah, no, exactly.
It's hard for the newbie, let's put it this way. It's hard for the newbie to get more, let's say you're catching yellows. It's hard for him to catch 6 and you catch 5. That rarely happens. But
To get
the
one
newbie
fish,
gets a
that one
50-pound
fish?
yellow somehow, and, you know, that happens.
Perfect example.
Yeah,
Okay.
good question.
So I had a group that fished with me every Sunday, and the bass calico fishing was phenomenal at Clemente on the backside over by China Point. So I would take the group there, and it was a one-stopper in the morning. I mean, we were done before, well before probably 10 o'clock every morning. And every day we're hanging a fish back there. And guys are getting smoked. Well, a lot of my bass groups fish with freshwater bass gear and light line and stuff. And they were, they're great calico guys. But we're hanging a few of these fish every day and they're getting smoked. And so I kept thinking, particularly back there around China Point and stuff, that it was more yellowtails, And so finally, my code boat, George Mayo, has been fishing Catalina the whole time.
New Hustler.
The New Hustler. And it was getting a little tougher at Catalina. And it was like one stop at Clemente for us. Get your squid, come over there, one stop, and you're on your way home, pretty much. Go around the front and fish. Try to get a yellow or something. So anyway, Junior, Rick Fujisaki, one of my captains and crew members, is working for George. He's going to go there. I said, well, tell George where it's at. So they go back there. And they picked on the bass. And, we'd been fishing it for weeks. And it was just one stop. You're done. Well, they go back there. And Junior happened to be fishing. He hooks one of these fish. And another kid, pretty much a novice, hooks the other fish. Well, the young kid didn't pull hard. His fish went out to sea. Junior's pulling this thing. He gets kelped. That fish is still in the IGFA record books. I think it was a 75-pound white sea bass.
Wow.
But it's in the
That's a
record
nice
books.
one.
You'll see it at Catalina. But it
Yeah.
was caught on the New Hustler. So they get home and he tells me about that. And they go, well, great, you lost it with this novice kid? I said, what was he, using an upside-down spinning reel? Just to rub it into Junior.
Yeah,
right? But George calls me, and, I don't know if you remember George, but he would go, oh, damn there, we got the big fish there.
I remember that.
Yeah, well, that was George, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's still a standing world record.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Steve Bermudez, back in the 20s and 30s, when Steve was a high school student, back in the 20s and 30s, didn't they fish green dacron when the Catalina Tuna Club first got started? They fished that linen line, right?
Linen line.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you something, Steve. I made one of the biggest mistakes. I have my grandfather's Calcutta, with the onyx guides and the whole deal. We'll have to bring that in and do that on a show on that one time.
Yeah.
I was messing with it. I messed with it, and some of the threads that were been on there for, God, who knows? I don't even know how many years. It was probably built back in the 20s or 30s. But he also had a dowel
Yeah.
turning for
Yes.
putting the linen line and washing it and then drying it.
Right.
And I got rid of that. And after getting rid of it, I said, well, that was dumb.
Like a
You know.
historical piece,
Yeah, it's a
right?
historical piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They still do that linen line thing over at Catalina every year, don't they? The tuna club.
Have that, yeah.
Yeah.
Have it was a tournament done
Yeah.
on that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I had that big old wooden spool with the dowels that he used to take off and wash off. You had to wash off the line every trip, dry it, and then re-spool it. You know, but there's things that I don't think anybody would understand if they saw that and go, "What's that?"
Oh, I
What's that
know.
for?"
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
They
Everybody's,
have,
hey, what's up?
they have no idea how much things have progressed
Oh, my
tackle-wise in
goodness.
this business,
Yeah,
right?
it's amazing. Yeah, but the Spectra, even though it's it looks like a linen line, that's a game changer.
Russ
Thank
Iser, man.
Russ. Thank Russ.
Russ Iser was an incredible guy, wasn't he?
Oh, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He was, he spoke his mind, and I mean, he did so much for this industry, and he had no fear of telling everybody the way it is, and he would speak the truth. So how good is that?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why I miss him dearly. Yeah.
All right, Brandon says, we can't let Mike Morrison in the contest. He's talking about eating fish eyeballs. He would do it 100% and has no problem going into
geez.
nasty harbor outside. So he should be disqualified. He can't do it. Dean is here. He's a mechanic. Would you eat a fish eyeball?
No.
No, Dean will not eat a fish eyeball. I'll eat anything. And
I don't know how to fish.
you don't worry, we'll supply you with it. Hey, how many people listening right now would jump in the contest and eat a bluefin tuna eyeball? How many people listening right now would do it? I'm just curious. I'm taking a sample. P&S Harnjack from Montana, beautiful Montana, tuna eyeball eating contest during your open house coming up. Sounds like a great fundraiser. Man, I like the way you think. Can we get some tuna eyeballs by Saturday?
God, I have no idea. But it brought me to a line that Taka had when I used to work for Taka, right?
Yeah.
A guy would get some junk fish or whatever it is, and I can't even remember what it was now, but it was a junk fish, and the guy goes, "Is this any good?" And he was all excited. He catches this fish. I can't remember what the heck it was, but Taka would tell him, "You like fried chicken?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Well, doesn't taste anything like it." Yeah.
I remember those days.
Oh, jeez.
You
Poor guys.
You gotta love it, man. I like. Good idea. All right, William Padilla says, depend how it's made. If it looks good, I might take a bite. No, you got to eat the whole thing, William. There's no biting here.
We'll just hide it in a
Eating the
hamburger
whole
bun, huh?
thing,
Put it
man.
in the middle of a hamburger bun.
You know how it'd probably be okay is if you deep fried it in a beer batter or something.
Yeah.
Almost you can't even see
Really
it.
deep fried it. Crunchy, yeah.
Christopher Martinez, eyeballs are gross, but I'd compete. I love Christopher Martinez. Christopher,
There you go.
You're number one.
Game. Right
Cue
there.
ball, wasabi, and bug juice. Legal? Question mark. Soy sauce and wasabi. Yeah. Oh my God. How about sashimi eyeball? That's awful.
No thanks.
That's awful. All right, P&S Harnjack up there in Montana. By the way, Phil, did you see there were a couple of triggerfish caught the last few days? One today, for sure. I heard the triggerfish are associated with albacore. I didn't know. I've never heard that one before. Maybe you have, Danny.
No,
So more
I haven't either,
triggerfish, more albacore.
But you never know.
You don't,
like
yeah.
I said, and we just talked about that. I can remember those years where, like I said, 84, where Fran got that record albacore. It was in the fall.
Yeah.
So you never know.
I know.
You just never know. I think we're a long ways off. I mean, you look at the water, the reason why this storm didn't hit us as bad was because the water's cool.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Guess what swims in that cooler water, folks? So keep your fingers crossed. Who knows? We don't know. I mean, for goodness sakes, there were a couple caught off Laguna this year, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know. All I know is Phil and I have our behinds covered because we had mentioned albacore. We didn't mention how many, but we did say we were going to see albacore
kind of
this
did.
year. Yeah.
I kind of said
okay.
several
I
hundred.
didn't commit.
You're out of
I
it.
didn't commit to any
I'm
numbers.
still screwed. We
But
need
we're
some,
not done. We're still.
no, we need some
still
fall
got the year.
algae down here, man. It's
Absolutely.
going to happen,
That
right?
would just would it ignite a whole new, just a big fireball of boats going out there.
I'm
This is
telling you,
unreal.
man.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon's back. Fish eyeballs. He wants to know, what's the prize going to be, Phil? Is it a free trip on a boat out of 22nd Street? I'll do it. I just need sriracha. I don't know what the. Well, I don't even. We don't even have it planned yet, Brandon. We're working on it. That sounds like a good idea. I wonder if Morrison. Morrison, are you listening? Where are you? Yeah, that sounds like a great prize. And yeah, I guess you could use sriracha. I mean, we could let everybody do what they want to do, but it's going to be cooked some way, and I don't know what way to cook it, man. We'll have to. There's got to. I bet if you Google tuna eyeballs, there's a bunch of recipes. I'll guarantee it.
Yeah. Well, I've never.
Are you
have
going to eat one?
No.
No. Will you be a judge?
No. Y'all be a judge. I'll be a judge.
Make sure that the guy swallows the whole thing.
Yeah, watch
no
out.
spitting it out.
And we'll measure the amount that the projectile comes out.
Yeah,
distance.
exactly. There's got to be a prize for projectile vomiting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Holy smokes.
Wild Willie, tuna eyeball, soy sauce, and some wasabi. That's what he says.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
Worm King swim baits. That's our buddy Fish.
All right, Fish.
Where is Fish?
I'm with
He
you.
used to
No
come
tuna
by
eyes
here.
for me. Yeah.
No tuna eyes for me. What a big baby you are, Fish. William Padilla, if it's barbecued on a corn tortilla with a fresh mocate salsa, I'll eat it. Yeah, we can do that.
All right, that can be done. That can be done.
Why not? We can do that. There's all
Barbecued,
kinds of
huh?
stuff we can do. I
Ooh.
just don't know what it is about like eating an eyeball. It's
Nah.
just, it's that gooey. But that if you deep fry
It's
it,
like a
there's
gel,
nothing
right?
gooey.
I don't know, and I'll never know.
Yeah, okay. This is degenerated into a man. Tuna eyeballs. That's going to be my next. I'm definitely mentioning tuna eyeballs on the morning briefing
That'd be
tomorrow.
the big challenge.
Yeah. Cue ball. William agreed. Cue ball. Make eyeball kebabs. Yeah, that's a good idea. Cue ball. That's a really good idea. So you got like 4 of them with like some onions and bell peppers in
Yeah,
between.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh man,
my
now
God.
it's turning loose. Tuna
Tuna
eyeball and adobo.
Tuna eyeball adobo. Nelson. Sounds absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
I
Why don't
don't
you
know.
just make a big bowl of pasta and put a bunch of raw instead of meatballs? You can use eyeballs. There you
Nelson says the Filipinos eat eyes out of the fish. What's wrong with you people? Hey, that was full speed in China, and I don't know about Korea. I was there for a few weeks. I don't remember seeing that, but it
Yeah,
wouldn't surprise me.
go. Yeah. Who knows?
I mean, different cultures do different things, and that's one of them. Cue ball.
True.
Cue ball just put up a bunch of eyeballs there. So, how do we get onto this?
At that point, I think it has to do with about how much they're drinking before they get challenged. To do
Yeah,
this
now is
eyeball
that going to
deal.
be allowed? Or are
Well,
people that
I
are-
would say, well, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be around when you projectile.
Well, we'll do it out here, so in case
Yeah,
somebody
they go
does,
over
they
the
just
rail.
go right over the rail.
Perfect. There we go.
It probably will hit the freedom,
Yeah. Oh, they'll love that.
Wild Willie says, "Hey, I'm setting up the barbecue in the for the morning briefing. He's going to bring them down tomorrow to the beach.
Ew.
Bring them down, Wild Willie. I'll watch you eat them, man." I don't know. I think we're on to something here. Who knows,
Wow.
Danny? We may have a
Yeah.
tuna eyeball eating contest
Contest. There
this
you go.
Saturday.
There you go.
Hey, by the way, Saturday, we're doing an open house here. Whether there'll be tuna eyeballs or not, I'm still not sure. Maybe 5 to 8 p.m. right here, 22nd Street Landing. Come
Oh,
on
my
down,
God.
say hi, grab a photo with us here in the studio, get a raffle ticket to help support our efforts as we've got a whole bunch more stuff heading to Mexico. In fact, Greg Bates, myself, and Bob Gifford are heading out to pick up tons of stuff and move it over to the warehouse. And then we're going to move everything here on Saturday morning also over to the warehouse and have this all cleaned up for you, or kind of cleaned up, that's for sure. William Padilla. Or if you fry the eye and make a sauce with a lot of tomatoes and a lot of garlic, onions, and jalapenos. Good idea, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going for this,
Sure.
man. Ooh, spaghetti and eyeballs.
Oh my God.
Spaghetti eyeballs. I like it. Instead of meatballs, you have eyeballs in there.
Oh my
That
God.
sounds absolutely terrible, Steve, but I love the way you think. Worm King Swim Baits is going to sponsor the eyeball event. There's $100 for the winner. We're starting there.
Wow,
I bet
Fish.
we can do better. I bet we can do better. And then, even though it's illegal, Danny, maybe you could be the guy who's running around saying, "Hey, how much you want on number 4?" You know, and then
Do
we'll
like an auction.
take 10% of that for the
100, 150 is 200, 250, 275. Sold.
God, I don't know why I've never, in my entire career of doing outdoor sports stuff, I've never talked about eyeballs. Who knew that this was the thing to get more traffic and comments than anything
Unbelievable.
at all, man? I'm
Yes.
loving this. All right, we got you down, Fish. Rick Slater, save the collars, best fish, do not waste. Thank God. Rick's trying to bring us back to
And then,
normalcy.
Now,
here.
collars, barbecue collars.
They're
I'll
great.
do those. Yeah.
Mike Trunk says, no way, he's not doing it. John Dulay says, hello. John, good to see you here, my friend. As always, Jonathan Jones, you better be wearing a hazmat suit if I try it. Yeah, he's going to projectile vomit.
yeah.
Sensitive.
Oh, yeah.
Great show. Love hearing you guys talk stories. And I've been waiting for 84 to happen again. Albacore will return one day, and that is for sure, right?
They will. They do cycle, folks. I mean, I've heard that before in the past, and we've had them, so.
You know, as convinced as we, or at least me, I was convinced because everything lined up. I asked Frank LaPreste this year, and Frank said they will be back. I don't know if it's going to be this year. So Frank was,
no.
You ask you or Frank or you guys, you just have an intuition about these kinds of things.
You look at the chovy population,
right?
They're gonna be, and there's enough, I think, out there on the grounds too to sustain that. So, it could be.
And it's not over.
No.
Right?
No.
You're predicting 100-pound albacore in the channel this year, aren't you?
Like I said, that's when Fran got her 75, the world record that's still standing, with Russ on the first string. So that was in the fall when we came back from San Diego.
All right, Kim Herbert, greetings from Southwest Missouri.
Wow.
Man, we got people all over the world watching now. How do I break my high sticking habit and learn to fish under my arm? Thank you. That's a good question because it's a habit thing, isn't it?
Okay, you're high sticking. I have to tell you now that's when we look at it technically, and if you were to quantify that, the higher you go, the less pressure you're putting on it. So if I'm gonna tell you something. Okay, so you're Missouri. You've probably done a lot of freshwater fishing. So even when I was catching those bigger fish with light line up at Castaic and Casitas, I never got the rod up here. It was always like I was fishing a tuna, because you're putting more pressure on it, that lower angle, and you're taking all you can out of that rod, out of the line, everything's maxed out, And on those particular fish, you have to put the screws to them. It's like anything else. You don't want to let it take line. You don't want to be on a long time. They have some teeth, but they could wear that in time and chew through it. But it's just about being able to control them more, because you're putting more pressure at those lower angles. And if you quantified it on the scale, you would see that by keeping their rod angle from 90 degrees down, you're putting a lot more pressure on it. So it's just a good habit to get into.
So, but her question is, how does she break that habit? I would recommend electric shock therapy. Every time you high stick,
Zap.
Yeah.
Get hit with a cattle prod.
Yeah, why not?
That
right?
would work.
What do you think, Kim?
That
Are
would
you
work
okay with that?
That would work for me.
We'll hook you up to a car battery or something.
Yeah.
The movie Ghostbusters.
Yeah, there you go. Like Dean says, Ghostbusters. All right, Kim. I hope that helps. Nelson DG, let's give a thumbs up. Yeah, hit that like button, everybody. Let's get up to 50 right now, or you have to eat a fish eyeball if you don't hit that like button right now. Don't forget to see us here Saturday night, 5 to 8 p.m., as we'll have an open house here at the Friedman Adventures YouTube studio here at beautiful 22nd Street Landing. Morning briefing tomorrow morning. Don't miss it. We'll have all the very latest. There's all kinds of breaking news going on right now. Brandon is back. Will we get a championship belt fill? I'll take you know what? I've lost so much weight, my belt is like, I'll write champion on my belt and give it to him. Sure, why not? I'm almost to the point where I need a new bra. I want it for bragging rights. I'll fish with it every trip out of 22nd Street Landing. I guess we can surmise for that Brandon will come and eat a fish eyeball, which
There you
I
go.
love, man.
There you go.
Better leave your Saturday evening open, Brandon, in case I want to talk to like Trevor or somebody here and say, hey, can you bring me 12 fish eyeballs? That would be great. All right, John Dulé, do you guys want to fish on the Condor from Fisherman's Landing? Of course, why not? Yes. In fact, I think I had something. I ran a little video on the morning briefing from the Condor today.
Cool.
Cue ball, high sticking. That's so 80s. Laughing out loud.
Yeah, it is. You know, and the problem is they never quantified the amount of pressure you had back then. And in the 80s, you didn't have spectra. So there's a big difference there, too.
And
You had a lot more elongation
Right.
with the mono. So you're not getting that lift that you are with spectra, because when it's direct, you don't have that stretch. You keep that fish, the head's coming on that thing the whole time. Where, if you got that stretch with the mono and it gets its head down, every time they kick their tail, if the head's pointed down, it's going to take line. So.
And Danny, let's be honest. We grew up in an era where guys would scream at you, and they're doing the morning briefing, rooster crow out there. There's a bunch of guys out here getting ready to jump on a boat, doing the rooster crow. You gotta love it. Come on in here a second, boys, if you want. We're doing the Danny Kadota Show right now, but shoot, thanks, man. It's good to see you. I love that rooster crow.
We're gonna
Good
get some
job.
cock-a-doodle
Go out there
doos,
and
man.
shake hands with
Awesome.
Danny. You guys,
How you doing? How you guys doing? Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So you're out
Appreciate
fishing
it.
tonight, huh?
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Thank
Beautiful.
you,
You're out
man.
fishing tonight? Go get them, man.
Thank you.
Go
Thank
get
you.
them.
Hey, go out there and look in that camera and say that, man. Go stand next to Danny.
Yeah, there you go. Right there.
Hey, we're gonna bring some tuna home tonight.
Woo! Hey, we
Beautiful.
need tuna eyeballs.
Eyeballs.
What boat are you on?
We are going out on the Freedom.
Oh, best of luck
there
to
you
you
go.
guys.
Beautiful.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you
You guys are going to get them, man.
I love it. Thanks, guys. Man,
Nothing,
I love these
nothing
guys.
like being at the landing. I mean, this is where it's always at, right?
I know, man.
Come on.
Those guys are absolutely awesome. I love it.
Well, you come down here to go fishing, but you come down there to laugh and have fun with your friends. I mean, that's such a big part of fishing.
Yeah,
folks.
absolutely,
Don't ever
man.
forget that, folks. The
Rick,
camaraderie.
Rick Slater, they are releasing water from Fukushima. Are you aware of that?
I haven't seen any fish glowing yet.
Yeah, I heard that. So.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's okay,
Yeah,
right?
I heard that too. I was just, yeah.
Anytime any government gets involved in anything, it scares me
Oh
nowadays.
my God, yeah.
Big fish will break the habit quick. Cue Ball says, big fish and doing the high sticking, that'll break your habit pretty darn quick. So maybe we got to get Kim hooked up to a really big fish, which I'm sure Kim's been hooked up to already.
And that was the deal back then. You're using a fiberglass rod, so it's just a rubber band. It's just going to keep bending, but you're not getting the pressure on them. And until they actually did the physics on it, and quantified it, on a scale, that's when you learn how you get the shorter stroke, but at the lower angles, you get in a lot more pressure. So
Cue Ball, he's saying, Danny, that you can really feel the difference when you're not high sticking on those bigger fish.
Oh, absolutely.
Night or day.
Absolutely. And material in the rods, folks. If you're a good fisherman, and I mean a good fisherman, you understand that concept, you can fish a straight graphite rod, and it's even more effective, But for those that don't, I would probably suggest more of a composite, a blend of graphite and fiberglass. And for those that want a high stick, stay with your glass. But I guarantee you, it just, efficiency-wise, it's not even close. You'll put a fish on quickly.
What if you take a glass rod and point that at the fish, or fish
Well,
at
yeah,
that
you're
angle? Will
pointing.
that
Yeah,
work?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But it's still, I mean, your crubbery, the minute you lift it up, that bend, and glass rod's going to be considerably heavier. There's a big difference right there. So it's
Right.
comfort level, and the performance part.
All right, Brandon says, do you ever enjoy your glass rods these days, Danny? Even for bass fishing at Castaic, do you ever fish them anymore?
I haven't had a fiberglass rod in, let's see,
Many years?
since
Yeah.
the graphite was first implemented.
You're just totally sold on it.
Yeah, no, and I used to have probably close to 100 fiberglass. You know, the original Sabres, Fenwicks, all this stuff that was glass in the old days. And
Yeah.
it's all gone. I've never fell in love with them for keepsake. I've always upgraded to, efficiency and something that's going to perform for me.
All right, Kim is back, and she says, I come out tuna fishing 2 to 3 trips back to back. Electric shock is extreme. I don't think so. I use that to get my kids to do their homework when they were younger.
Can't go to cattle prods.
Hey, Mel Shears on the Daily Double in the 70s. Remember, you must know Mel
yeah.
Shears. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would whack you with a broken gaff from up above. Mel, nice going, man.
Things were different.
That
in the old
kind
days.
of corporal punishment is to be admired.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I'm going to get
Following
in trouble
your
here.
fish. They really used to have the stern hogs back in the old days.
Oh, yeah.
On open party boats.
Yeah.
Guys would lock their arms on the rail like this, and you try to be polite. And I mean, they wouldn't have a fish, and they're sitting there, and they're not moving because they don't want to give up that spot. And you'd be on a fish. I go, excuse me, I got a fish on. Can I get by? And the guys would just sit there. And so I'd have to pull out the old football moves and drop my shoulder and say, sorry, But, that's the way it used to be. It's not like that anymore, Phil. I mean, back then it was dog eat dog.
Oh.
It was that. You literally had stern hogs, and you had to, earn that respect by telling them, and I did it by dropping the shoulder and doing the old pulling guard move on them, Yeah, yeah.
I remember Joe Schilling. Did you know Joe?
I knew Joe.
Oh, okay.
When he was running the Freedom.
Yeah.
Back in those days too. Yeah.
Joe was running, I'm thinking it was a Redondo special, and I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember making a cast with a bait, winding it in, and casting it again.
Yeah.
I got whacked. He was up on the bait tank chumming. Boom! Right over the head with a bait net.
For not
with a
changing
braille.
your bait.
Yeah. So you don't cast bait twice. And, it may seem a little extreme. I never forgot that lesson, man.
Yeah.
It was a little different in those days.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, everybody, I did not electrocute my kids to get them to do their homework. I electrocuted them to get them to eat their vegetables. That was it. Okay? So don't turn me into anybody. All right, Nelson DG says United composite rods are the best.
They're good rods. But they're composites. Okay. I'm going to tell you something, Nelson. If you understand the technical side of it, if you took a composite as opposed to a straight graphite, not many people are going to take that chance. I do, because I know the difference in performance. But if you fished a straight graphite compared to composite, if it was made correctly, it'll smoke a composite rod. I'm just going to leave it at that. But trust me, over the years of working with G-Loomis and all these guys in straight graphite, we've run those tests. And just physically have done that. So I just have to tell you, they're great rods. But if you put it up at straight graphite, and if it's made correctly, the straight graphite will smoke that. I mean, you're not going to go into a stealth plane with a composite. You're going to go into something that's straight graphite. There's a reason for that. It's a tough material. It's lighter. But in our case, it recoils quicker. That's where the big difference is.
All right, John Dulay says, maybe I will fish next month of September. Let me know when, if you are going. All right, yeah, John, unfortunately, Danny's schedule and my schedule, it's crazy, man. I am fishing in September. I have 2 trips. We'll be on the Apollo in September and on the Amigo here out of 22nd Street. But love to get together with you sometime, my friend. Q Ball says, broken gaff. Yikes, man, getting hit. I like Kim, man. Some great stories there. Wild Willie can relate, Dan. Yell, hot rail coming through. Sometimes that doesn't even work, though, right?
Yeah, no, but I mean, you're right. That's what we used to do there, too. Yep.
Brandon is back again. Do they still have spots these days, Danny? I remember the city of Seal Beach had stern middle rail area and bow with numbers, and people never moved. Sean Morgan would kick customers, but yelling LOL. I guess Sean Morgan would yell at these guys or whatever,
God.
you know, which is not
Yeah,
beyond.
I think everything's pretty much changed these days, right? Don't they give everybody an equal opportunity area to fish?
Yeah, I
Don't they
know.
rotate or whatever?
Do
Yeah.
they? Does
They used
anybody
to,
do that
when I grew
anymore?
up, there were stern hogs.
Yo, hell
Yeah,
yes.
and you had to kind of, you had to get bit and then move them out of the way.
Yeah.
By dropping your shoulder. And, sorry,
Some of those guys were the freaking deadheads too.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know those are the guys that are a pain in the ass to move, right?
Yeah. Well, I had enough drive to move them.
Do they still rotate on boats nowadays?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
I
maybe they do.
anymore. I'll cast from wherever. I'm not going to get into it with these guys that.
You know, I don't even like fishing the stern. I like the bow. You know, there's all the bow.
Well,
is
like on our trip we did on Paul, I was up there by myself. It was great. I loved
fish
it.
boiling.
Yeah.
You
The-
keep it quiet. You know,
Yeah.
don't tell anybody. Man.
Yeah, the only thing that bit me in the behind was, I was trying to keep those halibuts because I missed that first one, and then
Yeah.
I got the second one, then I got bit the third time. But that third bite, I looked back in the stern. That's when you guys went bendo on those big sea bass.
Oh
And
right,
I go,
yeah.
Darn it.
I know. Well, you ended up catching a nice halibut or two. I
Yeah,
can't
but
remember.
it was fun.
Yeah, that was a great trip.
But, yeah.
Well, Danny,
Yeah.
we've come to the end of our questions, so
Hey.
we could say thank you to everybody and good night. We'll be here Saturday from 5 to 8.
There we
Danny, Danny, on all honesty, has to check his schedule.
Yeah, I have to
but if
check
he
his
can
schedule.
make it,
If
he'll
I can make it, I'll be here,
definitely
for
do
sure.
that.
Yeah.
All right, another couple of questions. We never leave a question on the board. Steve Barber says they still didn't move. Steve Din says, what's your preferred length on rods, Danny?
Depends on the fish I'm targeting. Local fish, I go with the longer rods. If there's room on the boat and everything else. If you're traveling, if you're going, here's another one. When you're traveling down to places like Brazil and places, I used to take these big rod tubes, but it's a pain on helicopters and on, these small planes. Now they have these travel rods that are like 4-piece, 5-piece, or like that. And I got sets of those. Steve, you told me, got me into that.
Yeah.
And my God, they're unbelievable. But you can carry them on with you. Put them on, you have a carry-on bag.
Yeah.
You can put them on those things. So they've come a long ways with that, for traveling. But, typically if I'm fishing on a sport boat, I like a little longer rod if I can. It just gives me, to me, a little edge on my casting. I want that.
Yeah, absolutely. Wild Willie says, I love fishing the bow. You can cast, live line. He's right, man. I like
absolutely.
it up there.
The bow's great. On a lot of boats, too, say you're in a drift on an albacore stop or stuff like that, depending on the make of the boat, and I don't want to get too technical for you, but a lot of the boats have different idiosyncrasies, the way they drift. And some of the bigger boats, when they're drifting, the premium spot once you're in a drift is off the bow, because the bait, as they're throwing it off the stern, they'll run up the keel and they pop up under the bow. And if you look every now and then, I'll watch, you'll see the boils. So oftentimes I'll just run up to the bow.
Yeah.
And usually it's first cast if you see a boil. And a lot of guys are hesitant. I like it because you're away from the crowd, and the fish travels up there. But like I said, it depends on the boat, the way the drift pattern is on the boats.
P&S Harnjack, speaking of non-polite customers, were you running boats? When you were running boats, did you ever have to zip tie a customer to a bunk?
No.
I've seen that
Fortunately,
happen
I didn't.
before, actually.
I've had to grab a drunk and move them physically. I wrapped them and then carried them.
Yeah.
But
You were afraid he was going to injure himself, or he was being obnoxious?
being
or both?
obnoxious,
Yeah.
But no, fortunately with a charter boat, it was much nicer. That we knew all the people, and over the years, they were all return guys, so it was a good deal. We were very blessed to have a charter business that we did.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cue Ball says, thanks, guys. Have a great evening. We're not quite through yet. Cue Ball, if I could talk, be a great show. Brian Pearson is coming from Southeast Louisiana. He sends his very best. What's up, Cue Ball? You doing good, brother? Man, Brian, thank you so much. Danny,
Southeast Louisiana.
We've had Montana, Missouri, Louisiana, California.
I had a blast down there now. Southeast Louisiana. Brian, what are you fishing? I got the fish. I had a funny story. I don't know if I mentioned. Did I ever mention that one where Toyo Shimano came to me at a Bassmaster Classic?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that was down in New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
And the fishing down there is phenomenal. It's great. Fishing live shrimp and going out there and fishing the rigs and stuff like that. So it's great fishing. And those fish are great eating. I didn't even want to take any home, and the guy goes, "No." He filleted them out, and they were just phenomenal. Yeah.
All right. Cue Ball says, hit that like button, everybody. Yeah, do that. Get us up to 50 here. We can do that. We only need 9 likes.
Oh,
Danny's
man.
going to watch that. Just click away here. Brandon says, you didn't miss anything, Danny, on that Apollo trip. Brandon was there. I was with you on it. Like 3 people got bit in the stern. I got hooked up in the chaos. Mine was a damn barracuda. Unbelievable how horrible.
Oh, I thought you guys
mine
hung
looked.
about 5. No, 3?
I don't know.
Was it only 3? I thought they hung more than that.
I know Carlos got a
Yeah.
nice one, and it was good to
Yeah,
see
yeah,
him
good one, yeah.
for sure. And Brandon did get a barracuda
Yeah.
that one. And
No,
then
but-
Brandon, he gets so he starts like doubting himself, like, what did I do wrong? Why did I hook a barracuda? And he didn't do anything wrong, right?
No.
Just
you got
happened.
bit.
You got a
It's just-
barracuda.
yeah,
bit you,
exactly.
babe. Yeah, so don't
Exactly.
be so hard on yourself, Brandon. We'll be hard on you. Just let us do it. Cue Ball's doing great. Nelson DG, good night. That's all, folks. Not quite. Brian Pearson, good to hear. You've been fishing the last couple of weeks. Wild Willie being on the bow, you pretty much have first chance on the kelp patties. Well, that's true. When you're sliding on a kelp, being up there
Oh, yeah.
is an awesome way
Yeah,
to get it done.
yeah.
All right, Danny, you want to say good night to everybody?
Yeah, everybody, thank you for tuning in, and save up your questions. If we're missing something, save them up, and we'll get into them next week. But,
Absolutely.
you guys have a good week and take care. Good luck on your fishing. Hope we hear some more stories from you next week.
Hey.
Be awesome, guys.
It's good to have you
Got
back
any
on
questions?
too, Danny.
Oh yeah, it's always good. We're big airbags. We fit in perfectly. But yeah, save your questions and be more than happy to give it a shot.
Brian Pearson, one more thing from Brian. He says, I'm on the north side of the lake, born and raised fishing with a camp on South Pass. We get done on the P train. So that sounds awesome. Tangle Diver, good night, everybody. Isaac, good night. Have a great
Awesome.
night. Wild Willie, good night. Brandon, thanks for the stream. Danny and Phil, have a great evening. And Danny, once again, good to see you, my
And
friend.
we're out. We'll
We
see
are.
you guys. Take care. Have a good week, folks. See you next week.